Greetings, I'm Karen Colligan, and welcome to the Let's Talk Leadership podcast. If there's one thing I know, and it's that every single leader is unique, and there's no single way to lead. So your leadership style is shaped by your experiences, by your values, and by your strengths. And that's why this podcast exists. We bring in leaders from all walks of life to answer the same 7 questions and revealing their unique approaches to leadership. And so why does this matter to you? Because leadership isn't about following a script. It's about figuring out who you want to be as a leader. So listen closely, take what resonates, and start shaping your own leadership path. So let's get moving and talk to our next leadership guest. In this episode, I am thrilled to be speaking to Emma Weaver, the founder of Mental Wealth International, located in Northern Ireland. And we're going to hear all about Emma's approach to leadership. So Emma, welcome and thank you for being with us today.
Oh, Karen, I am absolutely delighted to be here and really appreciate the invite to have this wonderful conversation with you this evening.
Great. Good. Looking forward to it. So Emma, before we even start, tell us a little bit about who you are and give us a snapshot of Mental Wealth International. And what I do know is you're also co-founder of a number of other organizations, and I met you here in New York. So give us a little scoop.
So, yes, obviously I'm Emma Weaver. I am the founder of Mental Wealth International and a mum of 3, which is so terribly important to me. And the reason why I founded Mental Wealth International was because I managed the mental health services across a trust area here in the north of Ireland. And I'd done that for over 20 years. And that required a lot of different skill sets. So I managed teams, I worked with the government to change policy, I brought about new projects and new programs, all based on the growing needs and changing needs of people with mental health issues here. Because as the world changes, issues and challenges change. So I knew I had to be very adaptable. And I'd done that for over 2 decades, managing teams and people and really trying to, I suppose, shape the way forward and future-proof services here. So I very much recognised within myself I had people skills, I had the ability, they called me a troubleshooter. I actually used to be a little bit offended by that until I realised what it was, where if there was an issue going on, bring Emma in, she'd sort it out and then stand back and go on to the next one. But it took me a while. I was like, I'm not a troubleshooter, but yeah, I kind of like it now. So I suppose through all, and I built some amazing teams, like really good, solid teams, and very much recognised that I had a lovely skill set within me to recognise an issue or a gap or something that wasn't being supported or solved, or that there was a need for something, and I could go in and maybe implement something and create change and then happily leave it. I didn't claim ownership. I wasn't precious about it. I would move on to the next thing, which I thought was a lovely thing. So 6 years ago, I left that job, that lovely, solid job, and decided to go out on my own, and I founded Mental Wealth International. Now, Mental Wealth International is an organisation where I go out into workplaces and create cultures of well-being. So we offer like mental health first aid, which is a fully accredited training for people in workplaces, and it's called mental health first aid. It's like physical first aid, except it's for your mental health, and it's the same qualification. And then I also do workshops and I go out and do talks, and you've seen me, I deliver keynote talks, I MC different events, I do all different things. So I took that leap of faith and courage because I seen again that there was a huge need in workplaces to really talk about mental health. I very much recognised through my work that if we were able to hold space for each other in the moment in workspaces, maybe people wouldn't be impacted so much with their mental health, or issues may not grow as much if there was instant support. So from that, then I wrote a book. And then from the book, I got invited to do a TED talk. So it put me into a different area of my life in terms of, so I just wasn't the manager of mental health services anymore. I was now a businesswoman, and I had not
Yes.
anticipated that. I really thought I am going to go out into workplaces, but I was very much then seen as a businesswoman. So when the book came out and the TED talk, people started to get curious as to who Emma Weaver was. And then that led me into other ventures, which obviously then I have co-founded Synestics, which is an incubator hub for startup and scale up businesses. And we're very fortunate. We have an office in New York, believe it or not. We also have one in Dubai, and we're all across the island of Ireland and the UK. And again, that comes from all of my skills are transferable, and I'm happy to use them so long as it feels aligned. I'm very intentional in what I do, Karen. It's very intentional what I do. So I'm the CEO of Synestics, and then you're right, I'm also the co-founder of Horizonary, which is where we bring a group of female founders from Ireland, both north and south, and bring them around the world to have conversations with wonderful people like yourself, hold events, meet with the Irish Embassy, the British Embassy, the Irish Business Organisation, and really just try to, I suppose, build our networks. And that's where we met yourself, and we're back again this year. So yeah.
Looking forward to it. Yes. So Emma, so a couple things I just want to say about this, because you took the leap of faith 6 years ago. It is and can be very frightening to be an entrepreneur, especially when, as you just indicated, for me too, growing up, I didn't grow up to be an entrepreneur. And then all of a sudden, you're a businesswoman, and sometimes you look over your shoulder and go, well, how the heck did that all happen? Then you write a book, then you have a TED talk, then you have co-founding two other organizations. So it's a beautiful thing, because what you said, and I want everyone listening to pay attention, what Emma said is she is intentional. And she's intentional about her work. And when you are intentional, wonderful things can happen. It's like a snowball being up on top of that mountain, Emma, and it starts to go down and you can't stop it because the momentum is going. And then there's this idea and that idea. So the fact that you took that leap of faith is goodness for the world, because you are no longer just in that one organization, you're impacting many more. So congratulations on having the guts to
Oh,
to
it
do
didn't
it.
feel like that at the start.
Of
And
course not.
although not at all, and although the three organizations seem very different, they're not really. It's all under my same value base. It's
Yes.
all under the same idea, even though one is delivering mental health talks and training, one is startup and scale up businesses in e-commerce, and the other one is female founders and bringing them to different countries. It's all very aligned. And one thing entrepreneurship will certainly do is you need to face yourself and understand who you are, what are
Yes.
your values, what does integrity mean to you. And it brings this, you find yourself in the hardest of places, because honest to goodness, Karen, you are right, it is not for the faint hearted. It
Oh,
isn't.
no. Isn't that the truth? And that's really what we're going to talk about today. Is about that self-awareness. And what I talk about is you have to be self-aware, you have to develop, then you have to
Yes.
grow, and then you have to repeat. We have to just keep this cycle going. And you talked about values, and we're going to talk about that. That's our second question, because you have to have that foundation, Emma. We have to understand what for us are we willing to fight for? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
let's
it
get
can't
into
be everything, Karen. It can't be everything. You
no.
have to work out you and your path, because I don't know about you, but I know at the start you feel you have to be all things to all people and be everywhere and go to everything. And then quite quickly you realize, and I know we're probably going off topic a wee bit, whenever I'm talking to future entrepreneurs or some of those female leaders, that's one of the things that I will always encourage people: be intentional and work out what is aligned with what you're trying to achieve, because
Yes.
you will be asked to do everything and be everything, and you'll feel you need to and you don't.
Well, you said you're a troubleshooter. And so people came to you because they knew you would get it done. And so
Yeah.
that continues as entrepreneur because then people are like, oh, Emma, oh, she'll get this done. Oh, maybe she'll be part of this and maybe she'll be part of that. And it goes back to what we said, intentional. We have to be intentional about what we want to do.
I agree. Yeah.
All righty. We didn't even get to our first
I
question.
know, I know.
We will, we will. Here we go, here we go. First question, and it's a big one. How do you define leadership? Do tell.
I know. And I mean, what a question, Karen.
What?
Seriously.
Exactly.
um, and leadership, I certainly do believe, means different things to different people, and that's all right. And the one thing I would like to say is, although I managed mental health services across the trust area for all of those years, it would have been the feedback I would have received was my style of management was more leadership than manage. I didn't like to manage the teams
Mhm.
or manage the projects. I my skill or my I don't know personality was more of a leadership style, and that would have been fed back to me, you know, from obviously my superiors. They'd have said, but for me, leadership is being grounded in yourself, authentic, and very much values led. I think that's very important. It's about having the courage to go first with your own integrity and purpose, whilst also creating space for other people to rise. So even in Horizon area, you'll see I hadn't intended to be a woman in business, but when I was, you know, whenever that has happened, and that's what I was noted as being, I bring other women in business with me. I bring other people with me as well. It's about leading yourself before leading others and making decisions that are centered around, for me, well-being, integrity, and a lasting legacy. I feel, you
Yeah.
know, it's very important to always be, what legacy is this going to leave? Is this going to leave? It's like writing a book, you know, it's there forever. It can be a legacy. Like being on a podcast like this and us talking about what leadership means, even though it might be different to other people, it's going to be there forever. It's going to create, you know, so it's leading the conversation, leading the way, and being open, I suppose, to challenges. And when I'm talking about challenges, it's also about facing challenges and turning them into growth. So sometimes one of the best things you can do as a leader is not take things personally. So when a challenge comes your way or an issue, don't take it personally, turn it into growth. Go inwards and work out what that means for you as well. I think that's really important. And it's about listening
Mm.
and being aware and realizing you don't know everything. We're not meant to know everything, and it's all right. And I know you said this already, and I hadn't anticipated this coming out in my answer, but to be continuously learning and growing and listening and not feeling that you are that hierarchy in the room. It's about leading and creating impact.
Yeah, and what's interesting, a couple things around, you know, the managing versus leading. So managing is really like, let me check the box. Leading
Yeah.
is what are the possibilities? What's tomorrow? So you said a lot of that around it's values led. You have to be courageous. You want to leave a lasting legacy. And what you also said was, you know, we don't know everything, and that is okay. And leaders are smart. I'm smart, you're smart, and I'm not smart enough to know everything. And we have to allow the people around us to be smarter than us in
Yes.
whatever they do from a discipline perspective. It's okay that I think, wow, I never even thought about that. And wow, okay, yes, let's move that way. Because at the end of the day, you know, again, I'm smart, you're smart. I don't know everything. And then the other thing I want to, don't take everything personally. And you know,
Mhm.
Emma, that's really hard. I mean, still days I think, oh, come on. And then I think, oh, Karen, stop. It's you have to have some kind of a
Mhm.
veneer on you and say, okay, I'm going to repel that. That's good. I'm going to
Mhm.
take it in. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to, you know, noodle that for a little bit. And at the end of the day, it's not going to define me.
And do you know what, Karen? And it's great that we're able to have a conversation around this. I love it. I think it's really important because Because you can't, if you're going to take everything personally as a leader, your decisions, your conversations are going to be led from a place of that.
Yes.
That no, 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 no. We need to, I suppose, be confident enough in ourselves, be self aware enough. Like, I love the four agreements, talk about it all the time, but it's also about having that integrity to know, that's not my stuff. That, you know what I mean? That's your perception, and that's all right. We're all coming from different places. But to survive and really show up that leader, don't take
Yeah.
it personally.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it just goes back to what you said earlier about being intentional. And when you're intentional about what you know is right for you,
Yes.
then it's easier to put up that shield. It's easier not to take it personally. Intentional. I just that we're going to come back to that
I
quite
always use
often.
that word.
Yeah, we're coming back to it. We're coming back to it, Emma. All righty. Second question. We're just flying through these questions. Values, and you've already noted them a few times that values are foundational, and really they're our core, they're our guiding light.
Yeah.
It's how we make our easy decisions, and it's how we make our very complicated decisions. So I'm gonna really torture you and ask for three
Oh.
values. What are three of your values?
Three of my core values: loyalty, and I know that's real obvious. It's very important to me. Honesty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, honestly, just being honest with yourself, being honest with others. It's really, really important. Gosh, I have about 10, tell you the truth. So I'm trying
Yeah,
to think
of
of another one.
course.
I hadn't really absorbed this question at all. Do you know what? And just have good intentions all the
Mm-hmm.
time. Just
Mm-hmm.
like honestly check in yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
really important to know where you're making your decisions from. Like, when you're speaking, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Really, really think of those things. But I have like a million more. I think it's important when you're considering your values to write them down.
Yes. Yes.
Remind yourself.
Yes. And the other thing I like to think through around values is to check in with them every 6 or 9 months, just because when you're running a business, when you're an entrepreneur, things may shift. Not the core, I mean, and yet something to think about. As you said, I have 10. Oh my goodness, I could draw from a lot. And when we try and narrow it down to three, that's a hard question, Emma.
That's
Very.
a really hard question,
I know.
Karen, and I will be mulling it over for a little while after our conversation as to how I chose the three. But again, it's really important. It's because who are you fooling? If you don't
Yes,
know what your core values are, how do you lead? How do you show up? And like, leadership, even in Mental Health International, like, I still lead teams. It's not just me. So I
yes,
still have people, and I have some lovely students that I meet on a Wednesday afternoon that come into my business and are learning from me as a woman in business. So you've got to show your values. You've got to
yes,
know, because you're passing it on.
yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question number three, what is the best advice you were ever given by a leader?
When I think of leaders, I'm not necessarily thinking about, you know, the obvious ones that you might see out and about. There would have been colleagues or people that I looked up
Nice.
to, or maybe in situations, that really resonated. Like, I remember myself and Karen, my sister, hosting an event here full of entrepreneurs from America, believe it or not. And it must be 8 years ago. And there was a gentleman, he was actually from Australia, and I'd never met him before. And he got up and he spoke, and it probably is one of the reasons why I felt I could go out on my own as well. But I know through conversations I have had, and this has always sat with me, you don't need to have all the answers.
Mm,
You need to create the conditions that you can find them yourself, or you can support other people. And that really, it helped me shape how I was able to lead. It reminded me, and this is important, it's not about control or perfectionism. It's
mm.
about creating impact, being curious, being open. We talked about it earlier on. It's about listening. You know, It's about the self-awareness as well, but definitely it very much would have been, you don't have to have all the answers. And
Mhm.
so instead of trying to make them up or find a way, or I don't know if you use the word bluff, so it's trying
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
like, and people can see that. So then you're
Yes.
not being authentic.
Yes,
Well, like I
exactly.
quite, if I'm out doing a talk and at the end of it there's a Q&A session and someone asks me a question, and I'm there because I'm a leader in my role, and that's why I've been
Yes.
invited to speak. If I don't know the answer, it's equally as important to say, do you know, I've actually never thought of that before. I'm curious myself now that you've mentioned it.
Yes.
I'll get back to you with that.
Yes.
You know, and see, as a leader, being confident enough to say that says more than what answer you could ever try and put your way through. So understanding for me, you like, we're pretty well next to perfect, Karen. Like, let's get real
Oh,
about this,
well,
you
come
know. I
on.
mean, but we don't need, and we've touched on this already, but that was one piece of advice. You don't have to have all the answers.
Yes.
There was another gentleman as well, I'll never forget it. And gosh, this could be 20 years ago. He said to me, delegation is key. So
Mm.
you can have it all, Karen, but you don't have to do it all.
Wow.
Hmm. And that
Wow.
was, I actually got that from a woman that I had coached for her TED talk, believe it or not. It wasn't the one I was at. And she talked about that as she was talking about as a woman. I know we're talking about business, it's all genders here, but that really resonated.
Yeah.
You can have it all, but you don't have to do it all. And that's
Yeah.
where delegation comes in, which then leads into that piece of advice. You don't have to know, you don't have to have all the
Yeah.
answers, but you go and find out.
Yes, exactly. You have to have the curiosity to be able to go find out. Exactly.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we're going through an enormous amount of transition and change in the global market. And so, Emma, how do you lead through transition and change? Because we're always going to be going through transition and change. And as you indicated, you help women entrepreneurs, you come over to the States, you're going to Dubai. So that's a lot of change. That's a lot of transition. And how do you lead through that?
You know, you can do it in several ways. One of the most important things, and I would have felt it even throughout the years when I was, I suppose, leading teams. We've mentioned it already, and I'm going to say it again. You've got to listen to people,
Mm,
you've got to bring them with you. So if you are implementing change, or there is global change or uncertainty that's going on, as someone who leads, it's very important to bring people with you and not be coming in so rigid as to say, this is what's happening, this is what we're going through,
mhm,
because we are all human beings and
mhm,
a lot of people are resistant to change out of fear.
mhm.
It's
Yes.
usually people are afraid, they don't like the change, it's very uncertain. So,
Yeah.
as a leader, it's really important that we understand that everybody's different and
Yeah.
everybody accepts change so different. So
Yeah.
so in two things, if the change is coming within me, I have learned to ebb and flow with it. Learn to ebb
Mhm,
and flow with it. I've learned to let things be where they need to be let be. And I've learned to take action where action is needed
mhm.
within change. And again, it's very hard to define that, but that's something that I have learned throughout the years to work out, is this an action that we need to take, or is this a we need to just let that sit and see how that plays out? But certainly as a leader, leading people, it's about listening, it's about making people part of the journey. So if I
Mhm.
know, say there's new legislation coming in and I've got teams in front of me and we need to implement that in our workplace. Okay, here's the end goal, but how are we feeling about it? What does that look like to us? What can we do individually and collectively to implement that change, to feel emotionally safe around it, to dispel any anxiety around it? So it's really important for me to make sure people feel safe, heard,
Mhm.
and part of the process of change. Whether it's global or forced, or whether it's internal within a different organization, I think both equally are as important.
And you're right in terms of people being often afraid of change
Yeah.
because they don't understand what's
Yes.
going to happen, as we don't. So the ebb and flow is really a beautiful metaphor. It's kind of like the ocean. We can't
Yes.
control the ocean and we can't control transition and change. And that also is is a very hard thing from that emotional perspective. So you
Yeah.
talk about emotional safety. If I feel
Mhm.
safe with my leader and I know he or she is going to help me get through this transition, as you just said, make them feel safe, make them feel heard, and make them feel part of the change, that's going to alleviate some of my anxiety
Yeah.
and my fear of I don't understand what's going on. I don't know what's going to happen from a control perspective. So
Yeah.
the ebb and flow, yeah, I got to get a little bit better at that ebb and flow thing, Emma. I
Darn, it takes practice, honest to goodness. And I mean, the uncertainty and like, if and that is like, and that is where you can either shine as a leader. If you think about it, even the way the world changed,
yes,
even though it's not intentional, it's how you interpret it, how you're able to absorb it, how you're able to understand it, and then articulate it and support other people is
yes.
going to define the outcome.
Yes. And people are always watching. And even when you think they're not watching, and I know some of us are remote, and I know we do a lot of Zoom stuff, but there's also people who you see physically. People are watching, and how you respond to that change, that transition, that
Yes.
shift is they're going to take on whatever response you have to that. So no question about it.
Like, and as I said, everybody's so different, and I suppose my background being in psychology and that, I can't help but understand that everybody's coming from their own place based on their own experiences,
Yes.
their own skill set. So what I think might go one way, I learned that very early on. Things don't always work out how you think it's going to go in your head, so you've got to bring people with you.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Imagine that things don't go exactly the way you
More often than not,
to.
to be honest.
Exactly. Exactly. Talk about ebb and flow, right? Yeah. All righty. So we know the best leaders are curious and they're always learning. So what do you do? What are your tools? What are some resources that keep you growing and developing?
Great question. Great question. And really important when we're talking about what we're talking about. So, I mean, for me, a mentor. I think it's
Ah,
really important to have a mentor,
hmm,
or maybe two,
yeah.
depending if it's for personal or professional. Throughout my career, I've had several at different times. So
Hmm.
depending on what's going on, I have had different mentors. Some of them in a very professional capacity, and where I have sought them out and became either part of their program or their one-to-one, and others maybe more softly where you'd be meeting more casually for conversations. So it's very important that you seek out
Mm,
what fits you. So I do believe it's very important to have a mentor. I also a huge advocate as well for education. Now,
hmm.
education can mean, I remember maybe about 10 years ago having a mentor, and she was the CEO of the National Lottery Fund here across Ireland. And her and I were having a conversation, and I was talking about my so I managed all of the mental health services, but there was people that actually had more actual qualifications than me, and yet couldn't do my job. So,
Yes.
and we really talked about that education. And she said to me, the way the world is now, everything has changed. So education can be, and I hadn't done a TED talk at this time, education can be a TED talk, podcasts,
Hmm.
books, Audible. So it's really important to outsource what you need and where you get it from. So again, in the car, I could be listening to a podcast that's relevant to something that's going on at the minute, or it could be listening to an Audible book that somebody has recommended that could be to do with business or high performance, or maybe it could be something to do with psychology or how to live your best life. But it's really important to always stay curious and outsource what you need at the time, and it will change all of the time. I'm also a huge advocate. Over here we have like continued professional development, where they're called CPD hours, where you can then again outsource different CPD hours depending on what you need. So it's a qualification, but they're mini courses. So it's not 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. I suppose I don't know about you, but like the older I get, the more maybe I kind of I'm able to know what it is that I need. So if
Yeah.
it's a 6 week course on something that I know, like on change management
Yeah.
or high performance teams, I will outsource that, and so I would do that. So the two things I would definitely be saying are mentors and education, whatever that can look like anything. Like that can look
Yeah.
like anything to me.
And then I'm going to go back to what you said in the very beginning, which I've already mentioned, is your intentionality.
Yeah.
Your intentionality about, you said, seek out that mentor,
Yeah.
seek out the education you need, outsource that education based on what you need. So, again, being intentional and knowing what your framework is and where to go from that framework makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Do you think, Karen, then, do we self reflect enough then? Because how do you know what it is that you need if you're not reflecting? Or because whenever you're an entrepreneur and you're out on your own, it's only whenever you speak with your peers or have conversations like this that something might come into your head and you think, oh gosh, I maybe need to do something more about that, or I don't know enough about that. So self reflection, we said at the start, checking in on yourself. Where am I at with that? What do I need more of? What do I need left? It can be quite important with knowing what you need to be intentional about. You need to
Yeah.
be
Oh,
intentional about being intentional.
yeah. Well, exactly. Exactly. And we could go on with that rhythm of intentional behavior. What I'll say about self-reflection though is the other thing that happens with entrepreneurs is that we get busy. And whether we're delegating, whether we have teams, whether we're outsourcing, there's a lot to go on. And for me, what I am so rigid about is self reflection. It is taking time to think. It is taking time to look at what do I want to be intentional about. And if we don't self reflect, so what I might think today, Emma, based on where people think is and where I'm headed in terms of my business planning for 2026, in 6 months, in 3 months, in two
Mm-hmm.
months, if I don't do some self reflection and I stay very rigid to that plan, what will happen? Maybe it's great. Maybe I need to update it. So
Yeah.
the self reflection is really about staying honest with where you're headed and being able to, I'll use your words, ebb and flow
Yeah.
based on more information. The more education we get, the
Yeah.
more we know. Yeah.
And education can be, as we've said it already, different things. It's about staying curious. I think
Yes, yes.
curious is a lovely word to use.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, indeed. Okay. My sixth question, which is always kind of fun, is what piece of art or music or literature, whatever else keeps you balanced and brings you joy, with joy being the operative word. So do tell.
I'm very lucky because I suppose I have created a life. The life that I have now, reflecting back on it, I have created it. So my biggest joy on, like, of course, my children. It's always going to be my children. However, for Emma, I am not joking you. It is as simple as listening to loud music.
Ah, that's
No
my
joke. Like,
girl.
it's
Yeah.
not complicated. It's listening to music as it's like my wee weakness. I love Pink. I don't know if you're
Uh-huh.
familiar with the artist
Yeah,
or
of
whatever.
course. Yeah, yeah,
Her words of her songs. So like the radio in the kitchen, in the house, brings me as much joy as going out. And like obviously I be all over the world, I'd be out in boats. But if you were to say to me, right, tell me now what you're going to do this evening that's going to bring you the most joy, it will be loud music.
Nice. Girl after my own heart. I mean, I live in New York City.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to come through here. Yes, yes. However, this is not about me. It's about
Oh
you.
no. But I mean, and you know this because we've been able to have some lovely conversations. New York is my go-to place. I
Yeah,
have all it's the feeling it gives me.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
everybody was like, "Where are you going?" I'd be like, "I'm off back to New York." Like it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
anybody that knows me will be like, "Emma's away to New York." She's away. But imagine New York and pink. Like my life would
Yeah.
be made up.
There you go. There you go. Okay. And my last question is, do you have a favorite quote that, I have pages and pages of quotes, and I have a favorite one depending on the day,
Yes.
presentation, the whatever, who I'm talking to. So is there anything that resonates for you today that you'd like to share?
And do you know, Karen, I am a bit like yourself. I have quotes and I write them all down. So quite often I get asked when having conversations, what would you like to leave people with? People ask that all the time, right? So the fact that you ask this, and I don't mean to be self-indulgent, but I'm going to say my answer to that question is be all that you are to become all you can be.
Okay, hold on. Be all that you are to become all that you become. All what?
Be all that you are so you can become all that you can be.
Nice.
So that's an Emma-ism. That's what I
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Because I mean it's pretty self-explanatory. Show up your authentic self, be intentional, stay curious, and you will become everything that you can be.
Yes. Yes. Love that. Love that. That's beautiful. Yes. And it goes back to the reason I do these podcasts, Emma. It's because we're all unique.
Yeah.
And it's really important to understand what that unique value is that we bring to the world so that we can bring it and be who we are. Yes.
And we need to give permission and ourselves to ourselves and other people to be who you are, because it's very, I don't want to use the word sad, but it can be hard to watch people that you know aren't being that,
Yes.
and you're thinking, and you're
Yes.
so gorgeous and you could be so amazing. Just
Yes.
be yourself and it all
Yes.
works out.
Yes, it always does. Yes, indeed. I love that. Okay, great. Wow. Okay. So we learned a little bit about each other really along this whole
Love it.
thing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for being so open and free with your answers. Yeah, so it was really wonderful to hear. So for the rest of the day today, because we're on different time zones here, I'm going to be thinking about intentional, and I'm going to be thinking
Mhm.
about ebbing and flowing. Ebbing and flowing. I'm going to pretend I'm the ocean today, this afternoon.
Lovely.
Yes, it really is.
Lovely.
So thank you. Thank you, Emma, so much for being with us today.
Karen, thank you for holding space, for creating these conversations. It's so important for me even to be part of this. So I appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. So, everyone, thanks for listening. And I'm Karen Colligan, and you've been listening to Emma Weaver, founder of Mental Wealth International. One leader, 7 questions, and a lot to think about. If this conversation made you pause, if it made you think, and if it made you smile, hit subscribe and share it with someone who leads. And when you're ready to invest in your leadership, you'll find Keep It Real Leadership at peoplethink.biz. So till the next episode of the Let's Talk Leadership podcast, have a good one, and don't forget to keep it real. Editing by Mary Lee Williams. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon. Bye now.